September 11, 2001 began like any other day. A clear morning in New York City, the heartbeat of the American dream. But by the end of the day, the world would be forever changed. This is the story of 9/11, a day of tragedy, resilience, and the enduring human spirit.
On September 11, 2001, the United States experienced one of the deadliest terrorist attacks in its history. These attacks were caused by 19 terrorists affiliated with the terrorist group Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden. These terrorists divided themselves into 4 groups to hijack 4 commercial planes. These attacks took place in the morning at 8:46 a.m., where the North Tower of the World Trade Center was hit, and later at 9:03 a.m. The South Tower was hit. The third plane hit the Pentagon in Virginia at 9:37 a.m., and the fourth plane landed on a field in Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m. after passengers attempted to retake control of the plane from the hijackers. The reason why these attackers were motivated to carry out a terrorist attack was because they were against the U.S. foreign policies in the Middle East. Osama bin Laden wanted to spread fear to provoke the U.S. military and political responses.
September 11, 2001 was a day of unimaginable tragedy when Al-Qaeda terrorists carried out coordinated attacks, killing thousands and leaving lasting physical, emotional, and psychological damage. The events forever altered America with widespread grief, trauma, and a reshaped national psyche. The aftermath of 9/11 deeply impacted U.S. policies, worldview, and the mental health of survivors and responders. In the face of such loss, the resilience of the human spirit endures, reminding us of the profound strength that can emerge from the darkest times.
Hello, my name is Tony Saavedra, and for my documentary, I decided to interview a history teacher at Somali Academy, Mr. Howard.
Hey.
And I have a couple of questions for you to ask about 9/11. So the first one I have is, can you describe where you were and what you were doing when you first heard about the attacks on 9/11?
I was in Apple Valley, California, where I was born and raised. I was in 4th grade. I had just turned 9 years old because my birthday is on 9/11. So I woke up thinking it was going to be a marvelous day. And when it happened, I was still at my house about to get ready for school. My mom, essentially when she woke me up, she told me about it. And my reaction was of nothing because I actually didn't know what those things were. So to me, I could see that my parents and other adults were very scared. And to me, I had no idea what was really happening.
Thank you. So I'm just going to keep asking you questions. That's like what you do for an interview.
I think so, hopefully.
So the second one I have is, it's kind of the same thing. How did you initially react to the news?
You know, you're dressed like an interviewer. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You look very interview-like. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I really didn't have much reaction. I just was dead set on celebrating my birthday.
Yeah, and
then yeah. So I didn't. My reaction wasn't really.
The second part of the question was, how did it change as the day unfolded?
Well, as the day unfolded, I saw how much more serious it was because clearly teachers at my elementary school were affected. People were all around the TV at my place and other places. They did that drag in the TV cart like they did, not to date myself a little bit, but, so we could watch the news a little bit. So as the day unfolded, I understood it was serious.
Did you have anyone close to you who was directly affected by the attacks? If so, how did it impact them?
First of all, shout out Mavs. Light the beam, Mr. Cecil. Shout out Mavs. Okay. So sun's down. So the only person really super affected that I know was me because it's my birthday. So every day in school, when I have a birthday, everyone says it's my fault because I was born on that day. And my family, they were shaken, but I don't think it was a prolonged effect on them.
Yeah. So the people, the atmosphere around you, or were people angry, or were they like scared, or?
It was more being scared. I mean, people weren't really leaving their house. So we went to Red Robin that night for dinner because it was my birthday. And there was like no one there. Like, we were the only people. So I would say a lot of more scared and unsure of like what's next because of the continuous attacks that day. Like, was there going to be another one? How do we react? How's the security of our country? So, I mean, the anger came maybe a week later, and then you had like all these country songs where we're going to get them, right? But yeah, probably more scared at first.
Bit of improvisation
You
here.
guys an A, so I hope you're welcome.
Okay, so a bit of improvisation. So, how were the people like attending you at, or how were they serving you at Red Robin with you being there? I assume all happy as a 9-year-old.
Well, my expression was pretty neutral. I just wanted the food, but like they are kind of like, we're just doing our job type stuff. So it was, they did it the normal way, asking for the order and bringing it out. Yeah, they didn't like cry in my face and then put it down, but yeah.
What impact do you think 9/11 had on future generations, including those who were too young to understand it at the time?
That's a very good question, actually. I'm not entirely sure. I should pull my class to even see if there is like a profound effect on them. I think it affected more the older generation and people who were adults at the time because I think it's kind of similar to like the January insurrection. So to say, kids, that was like the kids' like first real homeland compromise. So that with that, they kind of understand it. But I think more adults like, okay, geopolitically, do we have to go to war? Are we safe? Like, can people get to our country and get us? So I think there was a big uptick in like people joining the military and more like need for security and that within adults. I think kids growing up now really don't genuinely understand that. So I don't know if they're affected directly. Now, indirectly, I mean, they're affected by increased travel protections and like if you go through the airport, like you get those indirect effects, but
So my last question is, how do you think we should remember and honor the victims of 9/11, and what lessons do you think we should take from that day?
How do we honor them? I guess tell the story. There's a lot of heroic stories. I take my 8th graders to New York, and we do the 9/11. I don't think any of you were there, but for some of the ones that were there, we do like a walking tour with survivors, and they tell us the story, and it's just a lot of profound, like, people were helping each other. They were really heroic in that situation that they didn't know they were going to get themselves into. So I think it's just like praising the human spirit, really like uplifting families and empowering the people there. And where do we go from here? Just understand like conflict like a very real thing personally and nationally and internationally. And it should be a reminder that we should always be looking out for each other. So from here, we should try and figure out how best to make sure no one ever feels like they need to do that again.
Thank you so much for your answers, and that's going to wrap up our interview. So
Light the beam.
I don't know what that means, but
Let Cecil see that.
I had one.
The 9/11 attacks left a profound impact, not only physically but emotionally and mentally. The immediate physical destruction was devastating. Thousands of lives were lost, buildings collapsed, and the city's skyline was forever changed. Survivors, emergency responders, and recovery workers faced long-term health issues due to exposure to hazardous debris. While the shock and grief rippled through the nation, emotionally, the nation grappled with intense sorrow and fear. Families lost loved ones, and millions experienced a shared sense of loss and vulnerability. The trauma, however, went deeper. Mentally, many survivors responded. Their families struggled with PTSD, anxiety, and depression. The sense of safety that once defined everyday life was shattered, and the emotional scars of 9/11 lingered, affecting generations and shaping the country's policies and worldview long after the dust settled.